Welcome back into the Rock Pod from the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce. I am John Gay from Jag and Detroit Podcasts.
I am Lisa Bibby, your local neighborhood realtor with Keller Williams Advantage.
I'm Trish Caruth, third-generation jeweler and owner of Your Personal Jeweler.
I am Andrea Arndt, an attorney at Dickinson Wright.
Our guest today is Kurt Pfister from Kurt's Kustom Promotions. We have so much to talk about with you here, Kurt. I feel like we could talk about Hawaii for about 4 hours, but we're going to kind of keep a little bit of a limit on that. But briefly, if you could tell us the story of how you kind of went from Michigan out to Hawaii to study oceanography and then transitioned to T-shirt printing. I'm fascinated by your journey here.
Ironically, I'm originally from Miami, and my dad moved a family to Michigan when he became a head surgeon at one of the hospitals here back in the early 60s. So I went to Highland Park High School. But I was always coming back to the oceanography and the marine biology stuff that we learned about when I was in middle school down there and the first year in high school. Well, anyway, got to Michigan, went through high school here. I wasn't thinking about going into medicine, but my dad, suggested marine biology. So living in Detroit suburbs, we knew that Michigan has a good oceanographic school, but it's all fresh water, the Great Lakes. So I put some applications into several schools like Scripps Oceanographic in San Diego and UCLA. But I also applied to Hawaii University. So one night going through the applications, my dad and I looked at each other, and he looks at the Hawaiian one and he says, "If you don't go, I'm going." So he kind of, kicked me out of the house at I think I was about 19 at the time. So that's how I got to Hawaii, just to study marine biology, oceanography. As a 3 days a week student, I was looking for part-time jobs. And because living in Florida and living in Miami and surfing pretty well, I found that I could get a surfing instructor's job at the Hilton Hawaiian Village. So the Hilton hired me, and of course on the beach we didn't have any uniforms. Anyway, irony comes into this point because back in Florida in the 9th grade I had a silk screening class, how to print cardboard, how to print other things. So I went over to the JCPenney's, bought a couple half dozen white shirts and cut the stencil for the Hilton Hawaiian Village logo, printed up some white tees with my name above the word surfing instructor on the left chest and the big Hilton logo on the back. And then I got down to the beach, and a couple of the beach guys, the kids, wanted to get shirts too. So guess what? I'm back to the JCPenney's. I'm printing up some more shirts. And this is all water-based ink. I was living in an apartment about 2 blocks off of Waikiki. We had a back balcony, a lanai. So I would take the shirts out, lay them on the ground on the balcony, and the sun would warm them up, dry them out, and I'd take them down to the beach. Well, about a week later, the hotel day manager for the Hilton comes walking down in his aloha shirt and his slacks. And he wants me to come over and talk with him. So I'm over in a corner somewhere, and he says in a stern voice, "Where did you get those shirts?" And it's kind of like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble now. And ironically, he said there was a lady that had a small shop in the Hilton lobby that sold the aloha shirts, and she was thinking about selling them. So I went to meet with her the next day after class, and I said, "What would you want to put on there?" She said, "Well, on some of the shirts, we might want to put Beach Bunny, and on the other, some of the shirts, we might want to put Surf Bum." And I thought, well, that's a great idea. So, and came up with some prices and went back to her. She called me about a week later and said, "Well, we want to do about 72 shirts. We'll do 36 with the Beach Bunny and 36 with the Surf Bum." Printed the shirts up, and fortunately, as they say, that's the how we got into the business. One thing I have to remind everybody, that I'm in an apartment with 3 other college guys, and I'm printing these shirts on a countertop. Taking them out the back door through the bedroom to lay them out on the balcony to let them dry. And the 3 guys that I had as roommates, these guys were always at the beach or always at school. So I had enough time to print the shirts that I was doing.
Hey, Kurt, I got one question for you. How in an apartment with 4 dudes living in it did you keep white T-shirts white?
Yeah, it was a little difficult, but it wasn't that bad.
It was maybe some tie-dye with pizza sauce and other food.
You know what? About that time, the tie-dye really blew up because you had Haight-Ashbury. This is back in, I moved to Hawaii in 67. So Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco was a big tie-dye, the hippie era and all that good stuff. So the tie-dyes were pretty prevalent over in Hawaii at the time.
Well, Kurt, you are speaking with the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce here. So why did you come back to Michigan if you were living in freaking paradise in Hawaii?
Well, the container industry started to becoming one of the biggest things in the world. Nowadays, you see container ships all over the world. In 73, I think it was, we had a dock strike on the West Coast. The entire West Coast was shut down by the Longshoremen's Union. And it lasted about a month and a half. And our illustrious Dick Nixon didn't do much about it at the time. So imagine living on an island and you don't get your can of peaches or your bags of sugar. Oh, by the way, you don't get your gasoline. So we were rationing a lot of stuff. And of course, T-shirts were getting rationed. I wasn't getting my shipment of, 150, 200 cases of shirts. So I didn't know how long this was going to last. So I kind of packed up the old kit bag and moved back here and moved back with my mom over in Lathrop Village for the time being. And then I found a small little shop up on Main Street in Royal Oak. Opened up, it was about 1,000 square feet. Started printing 4 colors on a manual press. And that is leading up to the next stage of Bob Seger.
I was just going to ask, since you're talking about the next stage, I've heard rumors that you've done T-shirts for quite a few big-name rock star clients.
The concession agent that I didn't know who he was when he first walked in the shop gave me this 4-color artwork with a big giant bullet on the front with a couple girls wrapped around it, and then Bob Seger. And this is before he got the national, when he got really popular. So, Beatles and Rolling Stones, yeah, but who's Bob Seger? So he was the concession manager for Bob for a while. So we were doing stuff for the first couple, 5 or 6 months. And then when Bob got his first national record, we ended up moving to a different location, but this was down in Ferndale. We bought an automatic press, and we're running about 500 shirts an hour. But getting back to Lisa's question, we've done stuff for ZZ Top, REO Speedwagon, some Beach Boy stuff when they were at Pine Knob. That was about it, really. I mean, because the concession manager for Bob Seger knew a couple of the concession managers for other guys. And of course, when they came into a certain area, they might be out of stock, so they needed somebody locally to print for them. So that's where we ended up getting to do stuff for them. But when Bob hit the big time, we were pushing about 700 pieces an hour, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week.
I do enjoy that you are on a first name basis with Bob. I'm just noticing that. I don't know if anybody else listening is picking up on that.
No, I'm not. I met him twice. That's been about it. But very nice guy. Just and he was very appreciative of what we've been doing for him for a couple of years. So it was nice to meet him once or twice. And I had a backstage pass for all the 5 years that I was doing stuff for him, but I never got to the concerts. So
it's a bummer.
So, Kurt, can you tell me more about the automated presses that you just mentioned? How does it work?
Anybody know what a Lazy Susan is? Circular on a table, it spins around. Okay, now if you magnify that, you put large frames in it and you line them up perfectly, and each frame is going to be a certain color. You could be printing, there are automatics that have 14 heads, as they say, so you can be putting 14 colors in there. Other presses are smaller than that. And once you get them lined up and registered and you put the inks into each one of those frames, turn the button and you're loading one little pallet where you would put the shirt. Then there's somebody standing right next to you that's going to take the shirt off when it comes around full circle. So you could be printing usually a T-shirt every 2 or 3 seconds, literally.
Yeah, Kurt, I was going to ask you about that. So I had a friend that was in the business many years ago, and it was pretty fascinating because it's a whole conveyor belt system of putting these shirts on, printing them, and then sticking them through a dryer. So what is your capability? How many shirts can you print in an hour?
At one point, when one of the automatics that we had, we were figuring about 750 an hour.
Wow, that's crazy amount of T-shirts.
You figure that with Seger on the road, we would be doing 24/6. And then, of course, after they finished the first concert or whenever, they would pick up about half of a 50-foot container of shirts and belt buckles and posters and all the other stuff. But we were only doing the shirts. So they'd go on the road. Let's say they're in San Diego and they finish a concert. They know basically what they sold that night. The next morning, they would call me and say, we're going to Los Angeles. We'll be there in 2 or 3 days. We need to have you ship, let's say, 50 or 75 cases. Just take them down to Metro Airport, put them on the freight liners, and then hold for pickup at LAX. So we had a pipeline of constantly air freighting to the cities that they would be coming into, pick them up, get the shirts sold, and then they would go on to the next city, and we would keep replenishing their inventory by taking them down to the airport and air freighting them out.
How specific were they in their instructions? Were they saying, oh, well, we need this many V-necks, we need this many this color and size, or is it more left up to your discretion?
One shirt, it was a white baseball jersey with a black sleeve, black 3/4 length sleeve, and it had the Bob Seger logo on the front. And that was it. The same shirt they would sell at the concert. Nowadays, you're right, there's more sophistication and they could have 5 or 6, 7 different designs and everything. But back in the day when it got started, it was just one shirt. And they would just say, well, how many cases of small, how many cases of medium, and so on.
I know you've had a lot of rock stars you've worked with. You've also, at the time that you're doing this t-shirt business, kind of a golden age of Detroit sports. You've got a lot of sporting events and a lot of teams winning championships to work for too, right?
We were fortunate, again, when back in the day, there were people in the industry that knew that we had an automatic press and we were able to do large volumes. And we had a visit from the starter company back in the day. And they were looking for a secondary press person to run the next upcoming Stanley Cup. And ironically, the Wings were in the hunt for getting into the championships, and they finally did. The first year that we were allowed to run the job was the year that the Wings got swept by the Islanders. So we were on the press, as they call it, press ready to go, shirts ready to go. And that's what they call the hot market. You don't start printing until the fat lady sings, until the final gun goes off or whatever. So
that's interesting because that's changed to where we are now, because you hear these stories of like whoever loses the Super Bowl, the shirts are already made, but they go to like some third world country. I don't know if that's a rumor or if that's actually the way it works.
Part of it is correct. Yeah, they're not making up 20, 30, 40,000. They're usually doing about 5,000 or 6,000 that'll be ready to sell at the stadium.
Okay.
For instance, if we go back to the Philadelphia Flyers Red Wings Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. The Wings did win in Philly after they went 4-0. They swept the Philadelphia Flyers. Well, there was another company in Philadelphia for sure that was ready to print for the Flyers if they had won, even though they lost 4-0 in games. But that's the way the company works. They'll have the two opposing cities. They'll have printers in both cities ready to go and to print. We were going to do Cleveland Indians back when they played the Marlins, I believe, 20, 25 years ago in the World Series, but Cleveland lost 11th inning of the 7th game, and so we turned the lights off and went home.
That was 97, if I recall. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Something around there, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are times when, you lose. Well, the Pistons that one year that they were 7 seconds away from winning, and they lost in 7 seconds at the end of the game, so we didn't do anything for them.
It's got to be such a strange feeling to be ready to do this huge job, and then, just kidding.
Yeah. Well, we get press-ready costs for, just being ready to go. But those are the highlights. I mean, those are the Mount Everest, I think you want to call it. The business that we're in is mainly doing the school districts, the elementary schools, the charter school shirts, restaurants, bars. We do a lot of stuff for the Royal Oak, some of the restaurants in there at Ferndale restaurants, and schools from all the way from Novi out to Harrison Township and everything.
Kurt, you talked about the very rich and famous work that you've done, the exciting stuff, life of celebrities, rock and roll. And now you're working more with local companies,
right.
Michigan-based companies. That's really fantastic to have such a wide range of skills and clients to work with. So can you tell me a little bit about how a small business would work with you to maybe print some shirts? Do they have to provide you with graphics? Do you have any graphic capabilities that, you give ideas to small businesses? And do they have options and types of clothing, that kind of stuff?
Excellent question. Back in the day, back in the caveman screen printing days, it was in a dark room taking pictures of each piece of the artwork that you want to produce, putting it up onto the screen, setting it into the press. Nowadays, you have the computer, and they can do the films, break down the artwork for you. And yes, nowadays, we would prefer that the client supply the films or the artwork itself because, again, they're so meticulous in what they want to get done. And it's unfortunate that when you go to a person that's going to design your logo for putting it on the web, the resolution doesn't have to be very, very tight and very, very precise. Whereas when we go to do a T-shirt, if you give me a design that's about 2 inches by 2 inches, you want me to blow it up to 10 by 10 inches, the resolution could look like looking through the bottom of a Coke bottle, or you're going to have all the pixelated stuff on there. That's the difference between, the word is called rastered, R-A-S-T-E-R, raster or vector art. Vector art is precise, pristine. You can take a 2 inch by 2 inch and blow it up to a 50-foot road billboard, and you would not lose any resolution at all. You have to walk the client through. It's almost like an education. Every time a client walks in, a brand new client, you have to teach them what the industry is about and how it goes about getting stuff done. And for instance, if we go back to the shirts, if somebody wants to do, let's say, a Tweety bird picture on the front of a black shirt, well, you can't print yellow ink on a black shirt. The yellow is going to look like baby poop green, literally.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, so you have to put what they call an underbase. So we would print the same exact size of the Tweety bird design in white, just a flat white, what they call underbase. And then we could print the yellow bird and the blue eyes and the white pupils and so on and so on. So it does take a little bit of artistic ability to come up with that. But somebody walks in with, okay, I remember one, the Bad Boys, the Pistons Bad Boys. A guy walked in with a paper napkin. This is what we want to put on the shirt for the Pistons. And it was through the Pistons themselves. But the guy had designed this in a bar on a paper napkin, and we had to recreate the lettering, the two crossed hammers, and all the other stuff for him to do. So time-wise, too, the first question I ask any client is, how soon do you need this?
Yes.
How about this afternoon or tomorrow morning? Well, how many are you going to do? Well, we're going to do 500. No, it's not like walking into a FedEx and asking them to do 500 paper copies. They can do that in 10, 15 minutes, but you're talking a totally different realm of printing on a piece of fabric.
So do you have options of what consumers or business owners can purchase on your website, or do they provide you with the material, like the t-shirts that they want?
There are certain instances when the general public will ask us to supply the product. We have a 800-page catalog, and of course with the COVID, a lot of the companies are not producing catalogs anymore, so you have to go online. But there's what they call a contract services. We have other companies that, like the Bob Segers, they supplied their own shirts, like the Pistons and the Red Wings shirts that we printed. They were supplied by the agency that had the licensing rights. So all we had to do was just print them. So we're only charging for the print only on the shirt. Whereas a lot of times somebody can go over to Michael's and buy 5 shirts and want to get them printed, with a logo for a birthday party or for an anniversary or something like that. So we have all the capacity to do everything. It's just that, what does the client want to do?
So, Kurt, I know in addition to t-shirts, you also handle promotional products, which I am a big fan of. Whenever I go to jewelry trade shows, I'm always getting the free pens and free totes. What promotional products do you find yourself creating in addition to t-shirts?
Really, it's the nature of the client that what they want. We just finished a job for the Hemophilia Foundation of Michigan. They have a summer camp up in Muskegon. But unfortunately, last year and this year, they're not going to be able to have the summer camp. So they are doing a virtual camp. So they asked us to do a Nalgene water bottle. Nalgene is one of the top water bottles out there. You could take one and throw it against a brick wall, and it would not even scratch it, probably. And they're also doing a sunscreen. Last year, we did a paper airplane, believe it or not, for the kids. We did a puzzle for them. So all these items that are the promotional products, we have national suppliers that we are able to go to. We're a licensed promotional products dealer, so we can go and get these things directly from them. We've done blankets with embroidery on them for the Hemophilia Foundation, and we've done stuff for the Crohn's and colitis. And for the American Cancer, a long time ago, the American Cancer Society would supply us with 1,500 shirts for their walkathon. So they already had the shirts. All they had to have us do is do the printing.
So, Kurt, it's been great getting to know all about your business. And I have actually seen a picture of you doing some tandem surfing. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into that?
When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Tandem surfing is similar to what happens with the cheerleaders on the side of the football field. The guys will hold the girls up and do certain poses. Well, they have taken that years and decades ago to another level, and you actually paddle out with a girl on the board with you, a bigger, fatter, wider board, almost an aircraft carrier surfboard.
Andrea is laughing because she was thinking the same thing I was, which is that she thought you were going to say a bigger, fatter girl.
No. Just glad we clarified it's a bigger, fatter, wider surfboard.
Surfboard.
Well,
yes.
you might want a similar weight to yourself to keep it level.
Well, don't forget you have 2 people on the board as opposed to 1, and you need a little bit more stability. So anyway, but I was working at the beach at the Hilton, and there was a girl that was a real short youngster, like a 6th grader, And she wanted to go surfing. So I took her out for a lesson. She was a local, ironically. But anyway, the girl wanted to go surfing. So I took her out on a board for herself. I mean, her board and I had a board. And then we were talking out there just, and she was saying, well, I've seen some tandem surfing. And I said, yeah, we can do that later on. So she jumped in and said, let's try tandem surfing. So I talked with her dad and mom, and they were happy with that. And there is competition out there, California and Hawaii, tandem surfing. So you have a certain pose, you lift the girl up, you do a certain pose, and you hold it. And the way you surf the wave, there's a degree of difficulty, and the judges inside on the shore are going to point you, just like they would do it if you go to a cheerleading convention or a cheerleading competition. I'm sure that the same thing. Certain ways they throw the kids up in the air and the way they stand. So there is a competition factor on that. So I hope that answers your question, Lisa.
Yeah, and there's such a degree of difficulty in those because what people don't realize, if you haven't gone surfing, that platform is constantly moving. Then you've got to balance as well as lift. And then right behind you is this wild, alive, crashing wave that's coming for you.
Oh, yeah. It was fun. You practice on the beach. You're doing the lifts on the beach for an hour and a half to make sure you get everything down right. It's just competition. So it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. I know I've tried surfing once and I was not a natural at it. Think I might need to work out a little harder to be good.
Where did you go?
Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah, sure.
If it makes you feel any better, Andrea, when my wife and I were on Maui for our honeymoon, we snorkeled. And I am not a good swimmer, never mind a good surfer. And I accidentally ended up on the coral reef and cut my foot up pretty bad and had to go to urgent care on our honeymoon because I was a dummy and ended up touching the reef by accident.
Oh, but it sounds like you are in love. So it sounds like you had a really good nurse to take care of you.
Yes, after she rolled her eyes and said, guess we're not going to nice dinner tonight.
Oh, I was going to suggest that you never made it to the ER.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I actually did say to the nurse, like, this antibiotic you're giving me for like the cut on my foot, like, I can still have cocktails and Mai Tais because I'm in Hawaii, right? Just, yeah, you can still have a drink. It's fine.
John, I noticed the shirt you've got on there. It looks like a beer shirt. Am I correct?
It is a Kona Brewing t-shirt, which we got on our second trip. We actually went to the Big Island for my wife's 40th birthday because we're obsessed with Hawaii. So Kona Brewing.
Longboard beer and big wave beer.
That's right. Prominently featured in the last several seasons of Hawaii Five-0, which I have to ask you to tell your quick Hawaii Five-0 story, Kurt.
Oh, boy. I was at the university and I was taking an acting class as an elective. And a gentleman comes in and he sits down and we were in the finals. I was doing a scene out of Tea and Sympathy. The gentleman, after the class was over, stands up and he hands out his business card, which said independent casting. And he said that there is a possibility within a year that there may be a new television show that's going to be filmed entirely in Hawaii. Okay, so I took the card, stuck it in my pocket, never thought about it. Got a call a couple weeks later, and the guy said, would you like to come over and give us a head sheet, which is, a couple different poses of your head and your body and everything so that the agency can look at you and see what you look like. So happenstance was the next semester I had a photography class, so I took some photos. A friend of mine took some photos. I did some black and whites. I took a head sheet over and never thought about it. The first year that Hawaii Five-0 came out with Jack Lord, never even thought about that. Second season, I get a phone call. Hey, would you like to be on a segment of Hawaii Five-0? And I'm thinking that this is one of my roomies that's pulling my leg, who the hell is this? Get the hell off the phone. No, this is so-and-so from independent casting. And I said, all right, fine. So I was shocked and amazed. He said, well, here's the address. Be there in a week to the sound stage. Don't shave, wear T-shirts and a pair of jeans. Don't shave. So it was a week later, I got a scruffy beard already.
Did you wear one of your T-shirts that you made?
No, unfortunately, the scene that I was in, I ended up becoming a jail cell person. I was in a jail cell with a big Hawaiian guy. The two of us were in the cell. It's just a 10-second, 20-second scene where Jack Lord walks in off stage into what is the jail, turns around, looks at the two of us, and then turns to the camera, which is behind another jail bar down the hallway, and walks down that hallway. Cut. That was it. That was just that one scene. So the director says, okay, you sit on the cot and you stand up over there next to the wall. So I'm sitting on the cot and the other guy the Hawaiian guy is standing up. Jack goes back, turns around. Okay, action. So Jack walks on stage, looks at us, and turns around and walks towards the camera. Okay, I'm standing up. He's sitting down. We did about 5 or 6, 7 of these takes. That was it. I mean, the thing lasted not even a half an hour, probably.
Which configuration made the air?
I don't even remember. I've got the tapes downstairs, but I don't remember which one did. But the next season, I think I got called again. And the guy said, we'd like to have you come down. And this time was going to be early morning at 6 a.m. walking the streets of Hotel Street, downtown Honolulu, which was one of the red light districts back during World War II. So I said, okay, fine. Where do I meet? He gave me the address. He says, okay, don't shave T-shirts and jeans. And I said, I'm being typecast.
Nice.
During quarantine last year, when we were stuck at home with nothing to do, my wife and I actually binged all 250 episodes of the Hawaii Five-0 reboot that CBS ran over the last 10 years or so. And so we're planning on a trip visiting Oahu this winter. And one of the touristy things we're going to do is the 4-hour Hawaii Five-0 tour, where you get to see where they shot McGarrett's house and all the different scenes from the show. So we're going to kind of geek out over that.
That's so cool. Take a lot of pictures.
We'll send it back to you, Kurt.
All right.
So, Kurt, now it's time for the fishbowl question of the day, where we pull a totally random question just for you. John, can you pull the fishbowl question of the day?
All right, let's see here. Well, this is a good one. I think I might have a guess to it, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Kurt, who is your favorite non-Michigan-based sports team?
Wow.
Did he stump you?
Very much so. I'm,
Any allegiances to Miami, Hawaii, or anywhere else?
No, I've been back in Michigan so long that it's been, ingrained in me for the Michigan teams.
I was going to suggest
football.
Dolphins just because.
Well, there you go. There's the oceanography in Miami. I was going to say the Rainbow Warriors of the University of Hawaii.
Well, I could too, but just they had a good basketball team quite a while ago, and a good football team decently, years and years ago. So, I mean, I would definitely, pass on that University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors for sure.
All right, well, fair enough. Kurt Pfister from Kurt's Custom Promotions. If somebody wants to get in touch with you for any promotional products, what's your website, social media, best ways to find you?
KurtzCustom.biz. That's KURTS, KUSTOM.biz, KurtzCustom.biz. Or KurtzCustom@gmail.com would be the email. The local number here is 248-541-0220. And I'm usually able to take calls from 7 o'clock in the morning until almost 7 o'clock at night.
It was great talking to you today, Kurt. Thanks for joining us. I'm Trish Caruth, third-generation jeweler and owner of Your Personal Jeweler. I specialize in creating custom engagement, wedding rings, and fine jewelry. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at The Personal Jeweler or on our website, www.thepersonaljeweler.com.
My name is Andrea Arndt. I am an intellectual property attorney at Dickinson Wright, and I help my clients protect their inventions and build their brands. You can find me on LinkedIn and on our website, www.dickinsonwright.com.
My name is Lisa Bibby. I am a realtor with Keller Williams Advantage, and I put the real back in realtor. You can count on me to help guide you to writing a winning offer. You can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Sold by Lisa B.
And I am John Gay from Jag in Detroit Podcast. If you have any questions about starting your podcast, improving your podcast, or podcasting in general, you can find me at jagindetroit.com or on any social media at Jag in Detroit. We want to thank you for checking out this edition of The Rock Pod presented by the Royal Oak Chamber of Commerce. For more information on the Royal Oak Chamber, you can find us at royaloakchamber.com, and you can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks, everyone.